Alright, it's gorilla lift time. We have our directions, we have our lift, we have our parts. We got these winky little bolts that I'm probably going to see if I can get some stainless ones. But for now, we'll drill it up. Get ready for this 150-pound tailgate. And here we go. Okay, so we got to put these part A's 1/4 inch off the back. In order to do that, I had to grind down the welds. Not a problem. Use my electric grinder and my air sander. Now I just gotta repaint everything before it rains. It's pretty simple, I think, because this is the good paint. I can actually paint right over that. Okay, mark the holes. I got this now 1/4 inch in the back. Mark that hole right there. You can literally go back. These things should be right up against each other. Come back and mark that hole in the back. Then you move the back one out of the way. Mark that hole right there. We had these holes set from originally, but they're not going to work. It wasn't in the right place. So mark that hole, then you pull this back up to that. Slide that one out of there. And you mark that hole in the back. Yeah, I hear you. Okay, now I gotta figure out which one of these this is now. Okay, now we're gonna drill them holes. I'm gonna start with a 3/16 drill, work my way up to 1/2 inch. Using my air drill and some wax makes it work really well. There are 3 steps. We get to 1/2 inch. I'm having some electrical problems. My compressor keeps tripping my shop out, so we're getting there. We got everything to 3/8 and then those down to that last one for 1/2 inch. It's going to give some wobble room in there for the bolts. That's the way they design it. And we'll see how it goes. Gotta let the breaker cool off for just a little bit. Alright, our story so far. Should have started with just one side, but it'll be okay. So they give you these, they tell you to drill these 1/2 inch holes. So they gives you slop room. Not real thrilled about that. I almost stayed with the 3/8 inch. Well, you can't. You gotta have whatever size that square is. You gotta have a hole big enough for that. But that gives you a little room, slop room. It's kind of a generic. These bolts are way too long. And I want stainless bolts. These are just regular old cheap bolts anyway. If they were hardened bolts, I would have stayed with them, but since they're not, I'll get stainless bolts, I hope. Stainless carriage bolts that are only long enough. They're this length plus a washer and a fiber lock nut. Stainless, of course, if I can get them. That's what I'm looking for. Back here I ran into an issue. I had centered this piece over the top of my rail. And then when I come back here, realize that the rollers, the center line here, this edge is actually a little bit out farther. So we're looking at an issue coming out a little bit, which is not a real big deal. You can take this and pull it out to the outside of there, but what I'm going to do is go ahead and waller this hole out a little bit to the side and bring that out just a little farther so that it's not scraping on anything. We haven't dealt with the position of this yet. I also don't like this at all. So the way this sets up, you know, they put a nut. Actually, that nut goes on the other side. That nut's going to go on here, and that the other direction, and another nut goes on the other side to pin them in place. But that gives you this whole gigantic thing sticking out, so I don't like that. So I'm going to get a smaller bolt that has just enough shoulder, like a 1/2 inch or whatever, just to get that cable clear. Maybe a couple of washers in there to push it out off to the side where this roller will be sitting out a little farther. I don't need any of this crap, so I'm going to cut that off. This is going to be a lot tighter. and we will space that appropriately. Figure it out as we go. I may have to run a die down this thing to get more threads. I'll figure that as we go, once we get some more hardware. But definitely don't like the fact that it's that close. So I suggest when you're getting ready to put yours on, the other holes are irrelevant, they'll be fine. But when you come to this back, make sure that your slots where the cable comes up is going to be outside enough where that cable comes outside and does not drag on top of that. Because as it comes down, it's going to be scraping along the whole thing. And we haven't figured out if we got to come back farther. The 1/2 inch gives you enough slop in there to play around so that this will not be, these rollers go under here so it doesn't drag on here as this thing comes down. To be continued. We're going to go get some hardware and figure out the rest of it. But so far so good. Alright, first step today is to prime and paint the holes so they don't rust. I may actually seal them up from the bottom once I put them in there with some silicone. I'm probably going to do that. So we were successful. We bought 1 inch 5/16 stainless steel carriage bolts, fiber lock nuts, stainless washers, which in my case is the appropriate length. They're long enough so that the nut will go on 1 to 3 threads, which is a requirement in aviation, so same for anywhere else. For the back, we bought 1/2 inch by 2 inch stainless steel bolts, a couple of flat nuts to go on the outside just to lock these in place, same fiber lock nuts. I don't like those gigantic long ones sticking out too much. And the only question we got, she'll have to open this hole up probably a little bit to the outside. Once we get it up there, I want to make sure that these cables are coming out a little bit farther to the outside so that they won't be dragging on the edge of that roller. Like I said, I think we'll get away with just moving this one hole over a little bit. We'll let this dry a little bit and then we'll get to that part. The only difference is going to be because of the fiber lock nuts, you really need to get at the top and hold these bolts down. So it'll be no problem for this back one. We can reach in from out there, you can reach in from here. This one's going to go right up against it, so this is going to be the only one that'll be tricky. That one we can get to from the other side. You just have to be careful when this goes in there that you don't push it up out of there. So what you can do is once you get this nut started, you can push down on this washer to hold that bolt into the square so that it doesn't turn. Then put a socket on there and tighten it up. We'll show you that. Piece of cake. This is looking good. The only thing we got left is to figure out where these bolts go for the cable. So when this dries, we'll get started again. Alright, without showing all the gory details, we have run into an issue. I'm thinking I might just be able to get away with leaving that there because the bolts are going to end up outside, outboard, and as it goes down, it's going to go away from the gate. However, what the problem we have is when you test this, you put little S hooks on it and it's hanging on the thing over here. Even with one side, this thing's got way too much pressure. When it gets to the bottom, it wants to throw the gate back up. So they tell you to disconnect the little spring at the front here. So all we have is the big spring hooked in there. It's not making any difference, and we're coming back, keep bringing this down so I can get it all the way down so I got this much slop in it, and it's still too much. So at that point, the troubleshooting step says if you want that disconnecting the little spring doesn't do it, email them. So I'm gonna email them, see if they have longer springs or something, because that's not going to work like that. It comes down to too hard, gets into bopping once the spring right back up again. So that's where we are so far. We've assembled it using the hardware that they give you with the easy slide on nuts, just to tighten that one up just to test fit everything, and turns out it's not going to work like that. So email Gorilla Lift and see where we go from there. Okay, the response I got back from Gorilla Lift was to cut out the large springs, run it just on the little springs. That's the only solution I have. So before I did that, I wanted to make sure I wasn't wasting $100 and I was going to get something out of it. So I pulled the little spring out inside the big spring. So the big spring's still in there, it's just not connected on this end. I went ahead and pulled these up. Get the slack out of them. I actually did, I'll show you. I pulled them out as far as I could get them. So they'll have to be mounted up here. So actually I don't mind them being farther up, because put them in here, that's a lot of stress. You put a hole in there. This way you only got this much if I have to patch that, repair it or something because it breaks off. So that's kind of weird now. I'd say come up a little higher, but I can't, because with it the way it is, well, I'll have to, if I cut the big springs out, which means cutting the ends off them and slide them off, I'll fine tune it. I mean, what we got, all that noise you hear is because of the big springs pulling inside the little springs. You see here, I'm right at the edge. There's the coupling, the crimp for the loop, so the spring is right there. That's as far as this can come out. This one I tried to do the same. It's right up in there too. So that's it. That's as far as I can go with it. I really don't have any choice, so I think I'm going to go ahead and do that. Pull those big springs out and cut them apart. Get the big springs off it, and all I'm going to have is these little springs. It's not going to work as well, but it does help. It's still pretty heavy, but that's going to be my only choice, because otherwise I could pull them off of there and just sell the things. But every little bit counts, I guess. So that's probably what I'm going to end up doing with. Disappointed, but with the big springs connected, I think I showed you. The gate won't stay down, and in order to get it to do anything, I got to bring these things way down here. Otherwise, the gate just flops right back up again. I don't know what the deal is here. The Gorilla Lift doesn't have a solution to this one other than what I got right now, and well, it's not going to be the greatest, but looks like that's what I'm going to have to get. Just the little springs. It helps a little bit. We'll see how it goes here. Alright, I'm still hemming and hawing, so I'm going to go ahead and I hooked up the big spring on one side. So I got two little springs, one big spring. Let's just check it out again. Yeah. Not a chance. Nope. No choice but to cut those big ones out. So certainly isn't what I had planned, but cut off wheel. I have to cut these suckers off of there. Nope, still got to cut that one loose. Never mind the appearance of those big springs. That didn't work out. So I'm cutting the ends off the big springs, pulling them out. I'm going to use just the small springs and see how that geometry works out. Alright, well, here's the first attempt with just the small springs. Goes down where it belongs with it right there. That's just to take the slack out. I don't know if I can pull them up just a little bit. Maybe just a hair. I'll run out of cable. I'll try, yeah, I don't think so. That's probably going to be it. Maybe go on the other side. Anyway, Hurricane Helene is starting in this direction, so I gotta button up batten down hatches. Get ready for that nonsense. I'll get back to this when it's not raining out. Okay, we're back at it. So we're gonna go from this configuration with those big long stinky bolts on there. And this time I actually installed one side. So it actually looks like I know what I'm doing. The stainless 1-inch bolts are now installed. And I have moved this bracket over. Drilled another hole. I'll show you what I used on that in a minute. We do the other one, so that's now going to be out here, which will, the new bolts are going to end up here somewhere, as far as I can get them. You can see I'll just drop the whole gate and pull the springs out. Maybe I won't get them out as far as I can. As I said, when they get to the end, they get to the crimps and you can't pull them any farther. This is the configuration these end up in, with the washer on either side and the little clips. Washers on either side. This big one. And at the front up here, we got these big wide washers and the big clips. The little springs attached. All those beautiful little bolts. Alright, let me pull that other one off of there and move the table over, and we'll get to work on the other side. Okay, with the bolts taken out, move this over here. You get access to the back end of this one, so you're going to drop a bolt in there, and a stainless washer and nut goes up on that. You can actually just about tighten that one up. Then you're going to put the other one in here. For that one, you're going to need to stick a screwdriver. Once you get the nut started, you'll have to stick a screwdriver or something to pull it down so that the square part fits into the fitting, so you can tighten it up. Otherwise it's just going to spin and it pops up. This one, of course, up here's a piece of cake. You got direct access to that one. This one over here, we are going to mark where it's going to go. It's actually going to be another hole right next to it, not a 1/2 inch. I'll show you in a minute what that's all about. These you can put these, set these up here. If I can, I'm going to lean on this so that it stays put. Well, just decide, in case you're wondering, you see washers, if the washers go on anyway, well, if you're particular like I am, and you'll see there's a rounded edge and a flat edge. The flat edge always goes up against the material, the rounded edge goes against the nut, where it's going to tighten it up. Let's see if I can do this with one hand here. Now I'm pulling on the side of this so that this bolt sort of is trapped. Otherwise it's just going to spin. Anyway, so we go like that, and I'll be able to put my 1/2 inch ratchet on there and hold that down to tighten that up. This one I still have to monkey with. The back one, piece of cake. I put my finger on that one too. However, all you gotta do is snug them up, because once they're seated in there enough, you can tighten them up. You got a little bit of slop in there. So this one we're gonna move around. I'm using need a deep socket, 1/2 inch drive. 3/8 is what I'm using. Alright, back to those other bolts. So what I mean on this one here, since you can't get to the top of it, I'm using a little screwdriver, and I simply go up here, and once I get it started, I'm just pushing down on it, holding it down in there, and then I can put the socket on that nut and just hold it that direction, and it'll tighten up till it gets to the point where it's grabbing inside the little square there, and then it'll tighten up all you want. Okay, with those three snugged up, the reason I'm leaving that because I'm going to move this around a little bit to move that around a little bit to even them up. So over here I got a Sharpie, and the other one, so I want that center. I just basically want to move it Table is going to be in the middle, so it's going to be about right there. So that's how far that bolt's going to have it out there. Should get that cap out of my mouth, I suppose. I want to keep this little 1/4 inch gap back here, so what I did on the other one, I marked the edge here, so I wouldn't go past the edge, and I want to go right up against that, just till that little mark disappears. Mark that little sucker. There we go. I'm actually going to go over just a little bit so that doesn't catch that. So it's going to be over a little. So what I'm using, air drills, because that's how I roll. Let's see, that's a 3/8 or 0.5/16. It's been so long. All right, 5/16. 5/16, and then I'm using a 3/8. I'm going to use that to relieve this top hole. I'm going to drill just a little countersink in there, just a little bit. The reason these 1/2 inch holes allow those bolts to drop down in there, give you a little slop, but they also do the job of relieving that little square part, so that goes in there. So I have to do the same thing, because this is thin. This is going to stick down a little bit farther into the hole, so I need to drill that with the 5/16 and then come down and basically countersink it just a wee bit, so this will, that square part will drop down into the wallowed out, and it'll hold it flat. So I'm going to go just a little bit of the inside of that. All right, 3/8 with a little bit of relief. Let's see if it's enough. So just a little bit in there. Push that in place, and there it is, nice and flat. Offset out here. Put the nut and washer on that. I'm going to move these out a little bit to the outside, line those up, tighten them up, put the rollers in there, and we'll be ready for the trying to fit these big suckers on the end here. Okay, with it down, what I've done is put it, this one I had to move over just a wee bit inside there. Let's see if you pull it. This wedge is just behind the roller there. Same with that one. So basically, see, the trailer's pretty much level. It's not going to be lower than that. So if anything, the front will be up a little higher, which means the tailgate will come down, will stay up just a little higher. Because that means the tailgate can't go down more than, just a wee bit before it bottoms out on there. So that's where it's going to go. Just got to mark them on the side. Drill some big old holes in there. Now, there's still got some weight to this thing. I guess I can weigh it, but it's a lot better than not. And it's going to be a little, because they're going to be on the outside anyway. So let's go ahead and start. Well, that's interesting. Well, I guess the cables are a tiny bit different length. Well, there's nothing I can do. They've got to go right there. Alright, well, let's mark them and see. So we'll mess this up. I don't want to put more than one hole in there. I said before, if there's a problem and this starts to crack or something, I can weld a reinforcement on both sides or whatever. even the whole length of the thing if I had to. Alright, let's do that. And even though this is not a drilling tutorial, I always do these in 3 steps. I start out with the pilot. I got a nice sharp 1/8 inch drill bit, and I'm using drill and wax. Then I went to the 3/8, and because aviation, almost everything's small diameter, these 3/8 chuck drills is basically what we use most of the time. Going to the 1/2 inch, unfortunately I have to use the big 1/2 inch drive, 1/2 inch chuck. This one's really loud and it's hard to keep control of it, but you know, you got to use what you got to use. So the same drill bits I used for the other one, 5/16, 3/8, and then I went to the 1/2 inch. You start out with the little one. It's slow speed, high pressure to drill steel, so you're leaning on that thing. You wanted to get it going till it gets a nice steady metal shaving coming out, all one piece. It'll go whoop, and you know you're going the right direction, right speed. Pop that through there, the next one into the next one. Be careful when you're done. It's going to be sharp on this side. Get a file or something, because this is spare steel. When I get done, even though I got stainless bolts, I'm probably going to paint inside there before I assemble it all together. And then we're going to figure out the configuration and how we're going to do this. Okay, in that case, eyeballing did not work. I'm right at the edge and it's not to the ground yet, so I'm going to have to move that. Fortunately, it looks like I'm going to have to move it a lot, because this is my second way of telling where it was. Now that hook was up here, so this is where it started, but it turns out when you move it over to the side, it's quite a bit of difference. But now I've got it to where I've got just a little bit of slop in there. That's where I want that. So now I'm going to mark the position of that, where that bolt's going to go. And even if I come back just a hair, that's going to be much better. There's a great big difference between where those bolts are. This is going to end up coming down, so I'm going to have to weld up that hole probably. You can see the difference, and it's quite a bit. Very interesting. I'm going to disconnect this side and I think figure out how to drill that one up, or how to drill it. Mark that sucker and drill that one. Like so. Alright, let's try this one. Use both hands to them. Not enough. Actually too fast. I'll have my other arm on there. And this one I have a little trigger control over it, for a hair trigger. So all I can do is push. No reverse on this thing. Be careful, it'll break your wrist. And for some reason it's a little tight. I'll wall it out a little bit. Okay, we got it. Clean that up a little bit. See how it fits. Okay, here's a setup on this side. This is a little wider in here than the other side, so I've got a second washer over there to push this over. Tightened up. That's just a dummy nut, just as a spacer. It's not quite far enough I'd like it, so I'm probably gonna grind this nut down just a hair. Quite like slack in there, but you know. There we go. That is as far as that can go. It actually came out just right. Sides. It's got a little extra slop in it. Good. So I'm gonna put a scale on this here and see what the weight difference is when I take these things loose. So exactly calibrated ain't, but you know, for our purposes. So I'm at about, I don't know, 16 pounds with the springs on there. So 16 pounds, you know, one-handed, no big deal. Okay, just so it's not my imagination, this gate going down is about, what, 58 pounds? So what's 58 minus 16 to 42 pound difference. And putting this thing up is almost very difficult to do with one hand, so I'm going to say this is going to be successful. Make this thing doable, even though it's only got the little springs. I'm going to be satisfied. Just for fun, the washer stack up on here is the round part goes there. You flip that washer so the round part's up. Where am I? Jeez. Try it again. So the round part is up. Round part goes against there, so the two flat parts are together. Round part, flat part against. How did I do that? Flat part. Oops, got it on backwards. Round part. Flat part's going to go against the nut. Flat part's going to go against the other part, so the round part's against the nut. In this case, up against the flat. Does it matter? Not really. But if you're anal like me, that's what you get. Alright, all I gotta do is paint those holes now. Tighten this thing up for sure. Maybe grind down this nut. We'll see. I may use it for a little while and see how it goes. And that's going to be a wrap on this one. Okay, this is it. Final steps. Painted the holes. The way this bolt setup goes, this nut bottoms out on the shank. Locks it in place. Got just enough threads over there. That leaves this washer, just space it out, gives you just enough room. You can see it's lined up pretty dang good. I said you can see it's lined up pretty good. This one, of course, I'm gonna have to come back and do something about that hole. This one was a little different, but pretty good. And then the last step they recommend is to seal these cracks up with a little silicone. So that's what I did. I just happened to have some brown. I was going to do it in clear, but the caulk gun I had a tube of brown in it already. So there we go. That's the final completed hookup here. Stainless hardware all throughout. Won't rust anymore. I said I'll just have to do something with that somewhere down the road. But that makes this thing completely different. No longer takes two hands and lift that, whatever it was, 60 pounds, 80 pounds. Now it's only 20 pounds or whatever the heck it was, 16 pounds. Anyway, there you go. If you got a weird situation and yours doesn't work out, well, I think this is as best as it'll get, and works for me. I can now use one hand on that thing, so I'm satisfied. A little bit of extra work, but there we have it. I think we're good to go.